What's up guys, and welcome back to my 2024 Acura Integra Type S. This will be my first time driving my car in the canyons after I've done a number of mods to it. And actually the mod list is getting pretty long on this car, despite me only having owned it for 8 or 9 months. But I actually have to have a list of mods now in order to not forget what I recently had installed on the car. Milltek Road Plus resonated stainless steel catback, but it still works with the OEM drive modes for the engine. So Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, you can still control the valve on the middle tailpipe, and there's actually a really big difference in volume and tone. I also installed a PRL intercooler. It's much heavier duty and thicker than the OEM intercooler, and I'm hoping that'll help me keep the intake air temps a little bit lower on track and keep the engine making more consistent power, especially on hot track days. Also installed the Acuity reverse flow radiator hoses. Lots of information about these from the FK8 Civic Type R, so the same applies here, but these hoses reverse the flow of coolant through the radiator in a more optimal way. I'll put a link to the Acuity website that explains exactly how it all works, but similar to the intercooler, I'm hoping that these two parts together will help keep the engine a bit cooler and making more consistent power on track. And last but not least, I swapped out my Öhlins springs, which were 6 kilogram front, 10 kilogram rear, with a new set. So it's 7 kilogram front, 7 kilogram rear. Hopefully this will make the rear end of the car feel a little bit more planted. I also had a Cusco front strut tower bar installed. Will it actually do anything to improve chassis rigidity on a modern car? I have no idea, but it looks awesome, and I like the bling in my engine bay. Full mod list in the video description, and a link to the websites for the new mods I will include in the video description as well. How will all of these mods make my car actually perform better? That is to be determined. I'll be tracking this car in a few weeks. I'll be making a video on that, but first of all, let's just see if this car is any more fun to drive on a canyon road. Right away, a much more aggressive startup noise if I have it in Sport or Sport Plus when I turn the car off, because then it'll start up in Sport. But actually in Comfort mode, it's very quiet. I would say it's not any louder than the stock exhaust at idle when I'm not pressing the throttle at all. I've been driving this car around with this exhaust for 2 days now, and I couldn't be more happy with just how quiet it is in Comfort mode. It's exactly what I wanted. I don't want to drive around making a ruckus everywhere I go. I want the ability to stay mostly undetected, and this Milltek Road Plus exhaust gives me just that. But how about when we open that valve up fully? In Sport Plus, we get all the pops and all the burbles, so let me demonstrate that here. It's got the K20 C8 motor, 320 horsepower, 310 pound-feet, front wheel drive of course. Weighs a little over 3,200 pounds. We have a mechanical limited slip differential in the front axle, electric power steering, 6-speed manual transmission. It's just a recipe for fun without sacrificing daily drivability. I forgot just how quick this car is. For a car based on the Civic, it's so capable. The cornering stability and cornering speeds of this car can hang with some dedicated sports cars, as I've found multiple times on track. There is a little bit of torque steer, but it's controllable. It's not the same type of torque steer that you found in 300 horsepower front wheel drive cars 15 years ago that would literally steer you off the road if you weren't careful. This is a lot more manageable. Front wheel drive performance cars have come a long way in the quantity of performance, as well as just how confidence inspiring they are to drive. First impressions of this exhaust in Sport Plus, the loudest setting, it's what I expected. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that this sounds amazing. No exhaust is going to make a K20 C8 or C1 motor sound incredible. It's a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4. It can only sound so good. But compared to the stock exhaust, this is way more aggressive. I mean, listen to that. On the overrun, when I lift off the throttle, it's basically burble tuned, is what it is. But also when I'm on throttle, how I would describe the tone is the stock exhaust in Sport Plus, but with a lot more volume added. Not too much volume, but just enough. And I suspect that when I drive this car on track with the windows down and with a full-faced helmet, I'll be able to hear the engine a lot better, which will help me always keep a sense of where I'm at in the rev range. Wow. These stock brakes, these stock Brembos, with just some endless CC40 pads and Castrol SRF fluid, they're so powerful. And they have such good feel. I've never had an issue with brake fade on track, and on the street they work amazingly well. The 6-speed manual transmission, as you'd expect, typical Honda, super slick, short throws. A little bit of torque steer, but the car doesn't understeer much on throttle. That's the thing, you're still able to point and shoot the front end of this car very effectively, even in the tight corners. Let's dial this back into sport, and I think a lot of the burbles should be gone now. Yup, no more burbles. The overall volume of the engine on throttle is ever so slightly quieter than in Sport Plus, but the crackles and pops are now gone. That's amazing. How did Milltek design this exhaust to have 3 such drastically different sound characters just by controlling that valve? It's actually incredible. How about the suspension? Now that I have a 1 kilogram stiffer front spring rate and a massive 3 kilogram softer rear spring rate, how does it feel? Well, in the canyons, I honestly don't feel much of a difference because the damping settings are about the same as before, and the bump absorption feels about the same. It's still slightly compromised for daily driving, so I might need to play with the damper settings a bit. But overall, the suspension still feels very, very well dialed. Once I take it back on track, I'll know for sure if this setup is now slower or quicker or more or less composed than before. But Öhlins did do some independent testing with various spring rate combinations and found that 7 front, 7 rear was optimal. The PRL intercooler and the Acuity reverse flow hoses for the radiator, I'm not going to feel anything out here. I don't expect to. It's all about maintaining lower temperatures on track. And I have a couple of summer track days set up, so we will definitely put these parts to the test. This exhaust is really, really nice. It is a high quality part for sure. The difference in sound between these 3 modes, I can't get over it. I actually really like Sport. In Sport Plus, the way it crackles and pops, it's a little much for me, but in Sport, you get the same nice tone without the crackles and pops. But that's just a little canyon drive, a little preview of the new mods on my Integra Type S. I will be taking this on a couple of track days this June and really putting it to the test. And both events will be at tracks where I think I set about as quick of a lap time as I could have, which was a 1 minute 24 second flat at Thunderhill West and a 1 minute 40.7 second lap time at Laguna Seca. I'll still have the same Kumho V730 tires for those 2 upcoming events. The alignment even is unchanged. It's really just the cooling mods, the catback exhaust, and most importantly, the updated spring rates for these Öhlins. So let's see if it makes a difference. But a big shout out to Öhlins, to Milltek, to Acuity, and to PRL, and to Cusco for making some quality parts for the Integra Type S platform. That camera is now dead, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you very soon.